Hey guys, this is Josh from We Are Solstice, and this is tutorial number 2 in our 2D adventure on Unity. Alright, so what we're going to go over today is more or less the creating of game objects, which we touched on last tutorial, and then the saving of scenes and the importance and use of scenes. So, the different ways to create a game object are to go in the Hierarchy tab and click Create. There's a bunch of different things here. We'll explain them as we go, but this is lights. These are different prefab shapes that Unity has. Sprites we'll use a lot in 2D. Cameras, particle systems, GUI textures and text, and then a bunch of things that we don't really deal with in 2D. And then you can also access these in game objects. Create other is pretty much that similar list. And then you also can create empty game objects, which are just transform values. And a good thing about these game objects that are empty, you can go in and change these and make these folders, which are very important when you're being organized in this manner. And we're going to go ahead and reset the values of all these so it doesn't change anything inside of it. And we're going to actually duplicate this cube. Get rid of this because that's my mistake for that being there. We're going to duplicate this cube, and then we're going to move it over a little bit. So now we have 2 cubes. And this is going to illustrate the use of folders. So our objects folder, which has the 0 transform, we're going to drag the cubes into here. And so when this is in here, we can move the objects folder if we want to move all the objects. You generally want to leave your folders at 0, but that's just a way you can move multiple things at once and kind of group things together. If you go in and change these values individually, they won't move everything. They'll just move whichever one you move. And then you can go back and still do this. It's just a good thing to get used to and organized with. We're going to make a lot of game objects, and we're going to have to organize them as we go. So, another thing I want to talk about are scenes. Now, scenes are pretty much like a movie. When you save a scene, which we're going to do right now, we're going to save the scene we're making. We're going to create a folder for scenes. And every single game has many different scenes. If you think of games as movies, every scene is pretty much every location you have. It's got a camera, it's got sprites and players inside that are doing things. You're usually manipulating one or multiple things. So we're going to save this, the main scene, and we're going to save it in the scenes folder. So now we have a scene. Having a scene is important because when you get to the point where you're going to mix down the whole game, you're going to have to put all your scenes in the build select, which I'll show you right now if you go to build settings. Right now our main scene's already in, but if it wasn't, we could just hit add current and it adds it. Or another thing you're going to want to try and do is when you have your scenes folder, you can just drag in the different scenes to make sure they load. So we're going to go over the build settings later as we export our game. But yeah, that's a quick little intro into game objects and scenes. And join me next time.